Good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, December 22nd, and this is Nadex Morning Analysis, where we look at some hot spots in the markets, try to break down with some technical analysis and price action what might be going on in the market today to give you some potential ideas and places to look at. Before we get going, I would like to do a quick introduction. My name is Todd Rich. I am with Nadex. With me from Keep Trading Simple is Brian Caprice. We do need to share that trading involves risk and may not be appropriate for everyone, that any trading decisions you make are solely your responsibility and at your own risk. And lastly, this is an education session. Please do not construe anything Brian or I say as a buy or sell recommendation. We are doing this for your education purposes. So with that, Brian, it's certainly been an interesting week.
Yeah, interesting 24 hours. Obviously, let me drag this back in. I was just looking at another thing that it looks like we just got news that Ontario is going to be locking down on Boxing Day, that it's a full lockdown because they're seeing cases spread as well, which is not always what you want to see, but it's going to lock down until January 23rd. So yeah, kind of crazy that our neighbors to the north are also locking down. So yeah, so there's been a lot going on, a lot of what they call low impact news today that come out. Our 12 o'clock session today will dive more into the significance of these. But looking at kind of the two hottest stories, obviously on the Brexit front, the EU most recently, about 3 hours ago, rejected the latest fisheries offer. I'm kind of starting to change my opinion on this one. Originally, I thought that Johnson was maybe being, I don't know, not a bit irrational, but I felt like maybe, they were sticking to those fisheries and they have always been a point of contention. And now we're talking about there's offers of fisheries and the EU is starting to reject it. So I'm wondering if I was misbelieving the kind of the headlines, and maybe that it's the European Union that has been a little bit too rigid in their compromise. And at this point, when you look at the comments in a lot of these articles, when you're seeing the kind of the deals coming in, a lot of people seem to be now supporting the pound in the UK and say, hey, listen, just break. You don't need this type of drama. Go out there, get your individual trade deals, control the fishing the way that you see fit, and let the cards lie where they are. So it's interesting. And then seeing the actual data today, I mean, again, that is a no agreement, nothing, and yet we're seeing the pound rally. So it actually looks like the general population is following that one. Now, again, you're seeing the euro pound down a little bit, so it's kind of one of those things. This is purely a pound kind of play right now, and it's continuing to move. And then the second thing, obviously, I want to mention real quick is Senate passed the stimulus bill, so it's going to the president this morning. So it's kind of one of those things. We can make some calls and assumptions, but we've already seen the market rally on that belief. Gold has not rallied because, again, I mentioned this yesterday. I think the $600 is not what people had expected, and I think the market had priced in the $1,200 or higher than 600, but it looks like 600 is getting done now. So there's a couple interesting things to look at on the charts. But if you want to jump over, I can go into the euro pound.
Yep. So yeah, I and I don't want to go through all the markets. I definitely want to tease up right now. On Tuesdays, Brian, at noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, Brian does a full-blown analysis every Tuesday. So this morning, I think we're just going to take a look at two different things, just to sort of tease it up, the hot spots in the market. And let's take and I think you're right. The euro pound is interesting. I mean, it went through the roof as the pound got completely weak. It then actually filled the gap. It came all the way back as people digested the news. So let me. You're up there right now.
Yeah. So guys, this will look a little bit differently. This is actually on the IG site. I have a risk to reward tool instead of fibs on mine, so I wanted to make sure I drew it here. But it's kind of one of those. I've mentioned this terminology before. The area of interest. It was an area that we had last week that was a very kind of interesting kind of takeoff point, and it was tested right before the end of the day, kind of the middle, right? It was an area where buyers stepped in. We had seen it in the past in their impulse correction move. They stepped in. That was where kind of the peak went to. Now, I don't use fibs too often, but I am typically aware of where they are, just for the reason that it almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you see different levels, you know how retail traders are out there looking at fibs, the numbers that they're looking at, where the hot buttons are. For me, this is this 1940 area is something we've talked about now for such a long time. It's been like a week and a half, 2 weeks now, as far as trading goes. When I say long time, yeah, in trading terms, not in like real life terms. But 9140 is sitting right here. If you guys can see where my cursor is moving around on the right hand side of the screen, that's an area marked off by the purple box. Taking your fibs, drawing it from your low to your high, that just happens to be at the 33, which again is one of the magic numbers for Fibonacci traders. Taking it to the other side to see where price is right now, you can see that we're kind of hitting or bouncing around at the same exact spot, that 1940 area, which also happens to be, drawing it from high to low, also happens to be the 50% retracement. So there's some people that will use the larger, the last major swing. Some people will use the minor. For me being a supply and demand trader, I'm looking for areas where price has shown me that is turned before. 1940 seems to be a pretty interesting number where we're seeing rollovers at this point. And again, now we've seen price try to drive a little bit higher, but although it's in the middle of a racetrack, I may actually go just a bit higher, maybe up into the 66, or even maybe up in the 61.8, which would be up here in the 91.50. But it's a very interesting place right now, and based off the reactions to the news, and again, if for some reason suddenly the EU does say, yeah, okay, you know what, we like that fisheries, here's our counter offer, and we agree, that would also lead me to believe this is going to turn and run all the way back down to this 90 area. So it's kind of lining up on a couple different fronts here.
Yeah, I'm going to actually jump over to the Nadex platform real quickly. And I just thought it was kind of, you looked at the short term from down to up, and then right here in just the last day up to down. I was actually looking back at what we had been doing for the past over a week. I'm going to say it's been almost 2 weeks, but definitely for the last week, we had this Fibonacci in here from the initial big move when we thought everything was going to be saved, and there it is. I mean, that 9140, it was the 61.8% retracement, even if you go further back. So it's that this 9140 price for whatever reason, and we go back further on the fibs. We take a look at the medium term fib. We look at just what happened in the last day. 9140 is a price, and so as we drift higher, if you think that the pound is going to going into the weekend, the pound got decimated, because everything was, the deal wasn't going to happen. The virus, it completely filled that gap back yesterday. We've rolled back up, and there's been some opportunities to short the euro pound, which is really the strength of the pound coming back down. So there might be an opportunity. You could play that with some knockout. There's some knockouts in here that could be kind of interesting if you thought the pound was going to continue to strengthen, and that the deal's going to happen and the EU is going to come to their senses, which seems to be what the market is wanting.
Yeah, and again, looking at combining all three, if you want to go to traditional fib values, I know that 3366 are not necessarily traditional, and again, I use those for different things. But the area that I just mentioned, the 9160 area, again, using price action, if you guys switch back to my chart real quick,
Yep.
You can see the green line now, this is the 23.6 right here. The purple right here is the 61.8. And if I move that out of the way so you guys can see it real quick, that would also coincide with an area of selling, right? So there would be my area of selling. There's a very strong base, and then a really, really, and again, I'll make it a little bit better so you can see it, a really strong push to the downside. And again, if I bring the fibs back in, you can see top to bottom, there's your 23.6. And again, if I bring this across, this is the other one, sorry. This one stays over here. That one stays there, and you can see the green line is there. And if I can grab the purple, top to bottom, you can see we're still standing right on top of that one with the 61.8.
Yeah.
So, the 1940 maybe an area. We'll see if we can kind of erode it just a little bit more. But again, we always have to stay as close in near time as possible. And again, that would be the 9160 today would be kind of a pretty interesting hot button to take this. And again, every different strategy we talk about that, that area keeps coming up as a potential area for shorts.
Excellent. Let's pick one other market this morning. I think U.S. equities. I did go back and look. I know yesterday we mentioned European equities. We mentioned the FTSE. We mentioned the DAX. Mm-hmm. Oddly, the currencies all filled the gaps. The U.S. equities all filled the gaps.
Mhm.
European equities did not, which I thought was rather interesting. But let's take a look at what, because the U.S. is the other market, the stimulus package.
Yeah, so the most current is in the middle of the night, and I will say I was actually watching the vote. They give them 15 minutes to vote, and then it takes an hour to count everything. So no wonder we have so many issues with voting here. It was like, oh, this is electronic, and it was crazy. If anybody has ever watched it, I feel like I lost some brain cells. It was, can the representative from New York give us the tally, or why are you here? And the person's like, Florida votes this. I'm like, wait, they just said New York. Why are we talking about Florida? So it got very confusing. But anyway, it passed. It went to the president this morning. He's expected to sign it. Obviously, the markets in the overnight since yesterday have again rallied back again. You can see early morning again. It kind of went down. I think because everybody was watching the voting, and then once they're like, "Oh, it did pass," okay, it did rally higher. So I think there's two kind of equations to this. And again, I'm not going to say do it right now. I think it's very important to see what the open looks like. It's obviously great news. There's some good protection. There's $300 back for unemployment. Again, there's some backing for the small businesses out there, for restaurants. They extended the anti-eviction for people and gave renters assistance. So all those are good things. There's a $600 direct payment, but I do still feel that that's a bit of a disappointment. I do feel. I mean, there was numbers originally of 1,200 per person. Now it's 600. So it's kind of on the low end. I do feel at this point there could be actually some negative feelings about this one. That like you did enough for us to sign a bill, but it's not enough. Like so there may be a situation where in 30 days we were talking about another $600 or something like that. So I feel like the market could be disappointed this morning, although I feel like we should be happy. We should see this continue to punch higher. Anything above a break above 34, 31, at least in the Dow, I would be looking for a bit of a retracement and then kind of a punch higher. Because remember, the initial push through that 34, 31 would be an easy support and resistance trap. I'd be looking for a punch through, a pullback, and then a go higher. But if we do start to roll over, and again, looking at this on an hourly level right now, what happened? It is having a little bit of an issue going higher, and I'm wondering if the big money out there will be trying to short this, assuming everybody else is going to go long. Because remember, for you to buy something or sell something, you do need somebody on the other side of the trade to be able to take the opposite of it, right? So if everybody says, this is great, I'm going long, all-time highs today, and all the big money starts selling it to those people, we can actually expect a rollover flip back down. So it's going to be very interesting to see in 15 minutes how that open happens.
Right. So I'm going to jump over to the Nadex platform real quickly. It's right. I think a lot of it's going to come down to how people interpret this. I'm not sure if a call spread or a knockout is really the way to go here. It actually, for something like this, it might be the binaries and trying to catch that move as we watch how retail traders, once they come into the market, how they start interpreting this. So in that vein, I would say probably keep your eyes on some of these. I mean, again, here's just the chart. We could see that we made the full V-shaped recovery yesterday. Filled, I mean, everything. It came back. We've kind of gone sideways. They've tried to sell a couple of times, but buyers have stepped in. But again, you're right. Now that the numbers are out, I guess it's going to depend upon how people want to interpret this.
And it's low volume too. That's something I didn't add. It is a low volume week, so it doesn't take a whole lot to move the markets. I don't know what strategy Dan mentioned last week, and shame on me for this one. But remember, there are other strategies just besides a single binary. There are breakout strategies and creative ways that you guys can play things as well. That maybe we don't know if it's going up or down, but there are ways to play that. I mean, like I said, the opening is going to be a very interesting opening. The early morning tone from the news, whether it's enough or not enough, there's a lot of different factors in this one. So again, 12 o'clock, we'll obviously know more, and that may be the way to play the reaction after it happens. Maybe the better opportunity today.
So yeah, I definitely want to encourage everyone to join Brian today at, again, noon. I got to think about that. Noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central.
Yes, noon Eastern.
Yeah,
when it matters most.
11 Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, and where he'll do a deeper dive into all of it. So
Yeah, when you
with
talk about
that,
oil, gold, there's a lot more we need to talk about.
yeah, right. All the commodities, the currencies, the indices.
Mhm.
If you've got any questions for Nadex, email us, please, customer service at nadex.com. Brian, you'll be able to reach him at support at keeptradingsimple.com. And again, he will be doing that session a little later this morning. So thank you for joining us this morning. Hopefully you got some ideas to be watching here for the next 15 minutes when the U.S. equity markets open. We will catch you not just at Brian's session in a few hours, but also tomorrow morning. We'll be doing this tomorrow morning as well as Thursday morning. We do this every morning. And good luck in the markets. Thanks, everyone.